Hello everybody, and I'd like to be the first to welcome you to Virginia Wine Month. It's always the month of October in Virginia. It puts us right smack dab in the middle of harvest here at Paradise Springs. We alone have brought in over 100 tons of grapes so far. We're about 60% of the way done with our harvest here. So in lieu of that and a special tasting that we're having for you, we're going to share some previously unreleased or wines that you might not even know that we have in our lineup, so it should be fun. The first one we're going to start with is our first sparkling wine that we've had in a few years. This is our Après Rosé. This is a sparkling rosé. So let me pop it here. It is 95% Chardonnay, 5% Merlot. The Merlot is giving it that nice pink hue that you can see. See how well I can do this here. Perfect. So, with this sparkling, this is meant to be drank young, fresh and fruity. It only spent like a year on its lees, the dead yeast, after it got its secondary fermentation in the bottle. This is done a traditional fermentation, method au champenois, so the second fermentation that's giving its bubbles is done in the bottle. This was just recently disgorged, where we got rid of those yeast and the crown cap, the beer cap on the bottle, and put a cork and cage in that you just saw me take off, so we could go ahead and release this fall. So let's go ahead and take a little sniff. A lot of fruit flavors of this, a lot of like wild strawberry, watermelon notes on this wine, like even like a sour cherry flavors or aromatics really come through on this wine. Let's go ahead and give her a sip. Just a really fine mousse. The mousse is the bubbles that form the fizz on the top. But really good, bright, fresh fruit. Translates on the palate, good acidity. This wine's refreshing to drink on its own, but I feel that sparkling wine can be very undervalued as a food wine. This has a lot of versatility. For me, I like raw oysters. This would be a good pairing to go along with that, or any kind of seafood would definitely in the wheelhouse as a pairing for this wine. Or just drink it on its own, and if you got something to celebrate, an anniversary, birthday, wedding, it's part of the fun of having a sparkling wine for you. Here for us is that it's another wine that you can take away from here for a special occasion or celebration. Okay, now that we've finished with our first wine, our sparkling rosé, we're going to move to the second wine of our special harvest celebration flight. This wine is the one that we've had the past few years. We haven't released one in a while. This is the 2019 L'Orange de Virginia. It's an orange wine. For those who are not familiar with orange wine, it is basically taking white grapes and fermenting them on their skins and seeds like you do making red wine. Where rosé, like the Merlot component of the rosé sparkling, their grapes were pressed off right away. The juice has slight tint to it, and then it's fermented. So this is basically the antithesis of making rosé. It's taking white grapes and treating them like red wine. And this is really the way white wines were made historically before modern science and practices came into effect. White wines historically in the past were done and fermented on their skins and seeds. So this is kind of a throwback. So this 2019 is the first time that we've made this orange wine from the Petit Manseng variety, which is a popular variety here in Virginia and a popular one in our tasting room. We've done it with Viognier a couple of years in Vidal Blanc. We went ahead and tried the Petit Manseng in 2019 with this wine, and we just are doing the 2020 right now since we're in the middle of harvest, and we've selected Petit Manseng again. I think it's the grape that we're going to stay with for this wine. I think it lends itself to this style wine best. So let's go ahead and give it a sniff. So I get like a lot of like orange peel or dried apple kind of notes on this wine. Typically the regular Petit Manseng that we have in our tasting room has a lot of tropical notes, but being on the skins and seeds, you're kind of getting a little bit more, muted tropical notes and more apple, and you even get like a little bit of nuttiness on this wine. It makes it kind of fun. So let's go ahead and give this one a sip. Right away, if you didn't know and didn't see what was in your glass, you could typically think this might be a Cab Franc or a Pinot Noir, lighter red wine, because that fermentation on its skins and seeds is definitely give some structure and some tannins into this wine. Definitely more tannic than any of the white wines that we currently have in our regular lineup. like I said, it's a fun wine. Serve it slightly chilled. This would go with a charcuterie board perfectly, with the cured meats and all the different cheeses, the olives. This just has some of the characteristics that make white wine good, like good acidity, but it also has some structure and some tannins that make red wine good, to kind of go with the fattier meats and salted meats on a charcuterie board. So enjoy. Okay, now we're gonna shift gears for our Harvest Celebration flight and start with our next wine, which is red. The last two wines will be red in this flight. And we're gonna go to the West Coast for this wine. This is actually the highest scoring wine that we've ever got from a publication or a critic. This wine got 94 points from Wine Enthusiast. It is the 2017 Syrah from the Santa Rita Hills, AVA. The vineyard this came from, Down to Chad Vineyard, is, outside of Los Aludos, smack dab in the heart of the Santa Rita Hills. It is in clonal selection, and the West Coast is very important. This is clone 470 of Syrah, so it has some different characteristics from some of the other clones. And we like this clone for a single varietal Syrah, for a warmer climate style Syrah. Right away you can see it has a nice dark deep color, so let's go ahead and give this one a sniff. We didn't make a lot of this wine, only 4 barrels, but it's one where we used some Syrah in our K3 red blend on the West Coast, but we kept some of this out to make this single varietal for you guys. So, and it's definitely, has a little bit of a reduced nose on it. You get some kind of like a salted or cured meat gaminess to this wine, which is typical for a Syrah like this. And then like a bunch of dark fruits kind of start to explode out of the glass once you agitate it and swirl it like this. And swirling like this is good. It helps, volatilize the aromatics in the wine, so your nose can pick up and you can appreciate all the different characteristics that are coming out of the wine. So with that, let's give it a sniff. So, definitely warm climate Syrah on the palate, a riper profile, a little bit higher in alcohol, because it is done in the warmer climate style, but really fruit forward, but just great texture and mouthfeel across the palate, great length to this wine, wine that will age very well with the bright acidity that still retains, along with some good solid structure. This wine with the aromatics on it and good acidity for me just screams for meat or grilled meat, something like that, because of the smokiness in the wine. I think would be a really good pairing with this wine. It would hold up to something that's a little bit heartier like that. And like I said, this wine will age well. And this is our high scoring wine that we've got on the West Coast. So with that, enjoy. All right, and on to the last but not least of our wines for our Harvest Celebration flight. This is the 2016 Moment. We're back in Virginia, and this has become our new flagship Bordeaux blend. It is a blend of Cab Sauv, Cab Franc, Petit Verdot, and Merlot. 4 of the main Bordeaux varieties that are out there in Virginia for a blend like this. And we don't make as much as this as we do like our Melange and our Meritage. This is, and it ages longer, 26 months in barrel typically on the vintage, and including this vintage. And this is kind of the counterpart for those who might be familiar with our Roshi, our Bordeaux blend on the West Coast. The packaging is the same, the label concept's the same, and this is kind of an important wine to the owners of the winery, Jane and Kirk. It was just kind of, the Moment means is kind of the conceptualization of the winery and the vision to put a vineyard in here and open this winery, and in the swirl just is like everything coming back together on the concept of having a winery here in Clifton and what it's meant to them. So with that, let's go ahead and pour a little bit here. Let's give it a little swirl to get the aromatics going. And it just has a very intense, concentrated, dried fruit note to this wine, like a dried cranberry note, like a prune plum note, just a lot going on with this. I even get a little bit of a baking spice, and that's typically coming from the French oak barrels that this spent so much time in. Let's go ahead and give it a sip. So, you know, right away before I even get into like the flavors, just the mouthfeel. This wine's very big and round and luscious mouthfeel. Just, you know, this wine has weight and body to it. I still feel like it's a bit young. Even though we've had it out for a while, it's something that can definitely, you will do well to age for another 5 to 10 years for sure. But if you're gonna drink it now, we've opened this bottle for a while, you get to can it and you really help this wine blossom. It really help more, and you'll be able to appreciate more of it that way. This is another wine that's with food that will go with stuff that's a little more heartier and all that. I would like this with like a beef stew or something like that. I think the real velvety tannins and all that would go well with the fattiness and of a richer cut of meat that you would use for like a beef stew or something like that, or even like a prime rib that's medium rare or something like that. You know, longs for a wine of this nature. You know, with that, we'd like to thank you for joining us for our harvest party and celebration in Virginia Wine Month this weekend. Hopefully you'll appreciate these wines that are seldom known and seldom seen, and you'll get the appreciation for them with the food that we've decided to pair for this special tasting for you. So with that, cheers and thanks for your support in supporting Virginia Wine.